天是2021年8月27日，星期五。大家好，我是贝奇。美国股市的这一周是过得最没有压力的一周。昨天周四，市场出现了一点对杰克逊霍尔全球央行会议所释放的信号的担忧，股指出现了轻微的恐慌回调，但是今天已经全部回魂。标普500指数今天涨了39点，涨幅为 0.88%， 全部收复了昨天的跌幅，并且创出了历史新高。纳斯达克在15000点的上方继续前进，今天收15129，比昨天收高了183点。今天纳斯达克的涨幅有 1.23%， 而道琼斯是全部收复了昨天的所有跌幅。今天道琼斯收涨242点，涨幅有 0.69%。今天美股能够单边收涨，最主要的原因是因为今天美联储主席在今天举行的杰克逊霍尔会议上没有释放具体的缩减购债和加息的信息，因此市场暂时解除了短期的担忧。我今天视频的重点就是对鲍威尔在杰克逊霍尔上面的讲话重点归纳整理一下，并且做了翻译和大家分享。之后我会解释一下我其中的一个持股 Afrm 为什么在今天的盘后大涨了 30% 以上，我又做了一些什么操作。今天我的视频出的比较晚，是因为 Afrm 在盘后发生了如此重大的变化，然后忙着看盘交易，所以就耽误了这个视频的时间。好，我们转入正题。今天鲍威尔在杰克逊霍尔上面的讲话重点集中在3个方面，第一是关于就业，第二是关于通胀，第三是关于缩债。我们先来听一下他关于就业的原话，英文好的朋友可以练练听力，对英文的理解有困难的朋友也不用担心，我后面都有对应的翻译。
In my comments today, I will focus on the Fed's efforts to promote our maximum employment and price stability goals amid this upheaval, and suggest how lessons from history and a careful focus on incoming data and the evolving risks offer useful guidance for today's unique monetary policy challenges. The pandemic recession, the briefest yet deepest on record, displaced roughly 30 million workers in the space of 2 months. The decline in output in the second quarter of 2020 was twice the full decline during the Great Recession. But the pace of the recovery has exceeded expectations, with output surpassing its previous peak after only 4 quarters, less than half the time required following the Great Recession. As is typically the case, the recovery in employment has lagged that in output. Nonetheless, employment gains have also come faster than expected. The economic downturn has not fallen equally on all Americans, and those least able to shoulder the burden have been hardest hit. In particular, despite progress, joblessness continues to fall disproportionately on lower wage workers in the service sector and on African Americans and Hispanics. The unevenness of the recovery can further be seen through the lens of the sectoral shift of spending into goods, particularly durable goods such as appliances, furniture, and cars, and away from services, particularly in-person services in areas such as travel and leisure. As the pandemic struck, restaurant meals fell 45%, air travel 95%, and dentist visits 65%. Even today, with overall GDP and consumption spending more than fully recovered, services spending remains about 7% below trend. Total employment is now 6 million below its February 2020 level, and 5 million of that shortfall is in the still depressed service sector. In contrast, spending on durable goods has boomed since the start of the recovery and is now running about 20% above the pre-pandemic level. With demand outstripping pandemic-afflicted supply, rising durables prices are a principal factor lifting inflation well above our 2% objective. Given the ongoing upheaval in the economy, some strains and surprises are inevitable. The job of monetary policy is to promote maximum employment and price stability as the economy works through this challenging period.
这一段话里边他说他在今天的讲话中他会侧重于努力促进就业最大化和商品价格稳定。他拿去年2月份股市崩盘的情况和现在相比，说去年疫情爆发让3000万人失去了工作，去年第2季度的经济下沉是大萧条时候的2倍。但是经济恢复的速度比预期要好很多，仅仅用了4个季度的时间，国家的产能就超过了前高， 整个过程所用的时间仅仅是大萧条的时候所需要的时间的一半都不到。但是他说就业却跟不上产能，这也是很典型的现象。他继续说，尽管如此，就业还是比预期好。虽然就业有所失衡，特别体现在服务行业，但是在耐用品上面的消费出现了爆发式的增长，比疫情之前增长了 20%。 因为需求超过了疫情前的情况，所以这也是通胀超过 2% 的最主要的原因。因为经历突变，有些困难是无法避免的。美联储给予市场宽松的货币政策，就是为这次困难提供最大的就业机会和价格稳定。接下来关于通胀，他是这么说的。
The rapid reopening of the economy has brought a sharp run-up in inflation. Over the 12 months through July, measures of headline and core PCE inflation have run at 4.2% and 3.6% respectively, well above our 2% longer-run objective. Businesses and consumers widely report upward pressure on prices and wages. Inflation at these levels is, of course, a cause for concern. But that concern is tempered by a number of factors that suggest that these elevated readings are likely to prove temporary. This assessment is a critical and ongoing one, and we are carefully monitoring incoming data. The dynamics of inflation are complex, and we assess the inflation outlook from a number of different perspectives, as I will now discuss. The spike in inflation is so far largely the product of a relatively narrow group of goods and services that have been directly affected by the pandemic and the reopening of the economy. Durable goods alone contributed about 1% to the latest 12-month measures of headline and core inflation. Energy prices, which rebounded with the strong recovery, added another 0.8% to headline inflation. And from long experience, we expect the inflation effects of these increases to be transitory.
他说，经济的快速重启引起了通胀。过去的12个月算到现在的7月份，主要通胀和核心通胀的 PCE 指数分别见到了 4.2% 和 3.6%， 比我们 2% 的通胀目标高出了很多。公司和个人都感觉到了价格上升的压力。通胀当然让我们非常担心，但是他说这种担心是暂时的，并且有充分的数据来证明现在的通货膨胀是暂时的。他说对通胀的评估非常重要，美联储也在密切监控将来通胀的数据，并且用不同的方法来评估通胀，因为通胀的本质是复杂的。但是他说耐用品的通胀就已经占据了 1% 的最近的通胀，能源和食物的价格上涨又给主通胀贡献了 0.25% 的上升增率，但是他说从长远来看，我们认为通胀是暂时的。
Central banks have always faced the problem of distinguishing transitory inflation spikes from more troublesome developments, and it is sometimes difficult to do so with confidence in real time. At such times, there is no substitute for a careful focus on incoming data and evolving risks. If sustained higher inflation were to become a serious concern, the FOMC would certainly respond and use our tools to assure that inflation runs at levels that are consistent with our goal.
这里他是说，美联储经常陷于无法从经济发展的麻烦中把暂时性的通胀分离出来。在这种情况之下，除了密切关注将来的风险数据，别无他法。然后他接着说，如果通胀严重，美联储会采取工具来保持通胀率维持在 2% 的通胀目标附近。但是这一小段视频被我不小心剪掉了，如果想求证的朋友可以打开我视频下方的描述栏，找到 CNBC 的这个视频链接，然后就可以找到他这部分的讲话。
We also assess whether wage increases are consistent with our 2% inflation goal over time. Wage increases are essential to support a rising standard of living and are generally, of course, a welcome development. But if wage increases were to move materially and persistently above the levels of productivity gains and inflation, businesses would likely pass those increases on to customers, a process that could become the sort of wage price spiral seen at times in the past. Today, we see little evidence of wage increases that might threaten excessive inflation.
这一段他是说，美联储也非常关心提薪是否和 2% 的通胀目标保持一致。他说，如果提薪的速度和比率高于产能和通胀的话，那么这些压力就会转嫁到消费者身上。但是今天我们看不到提薪对通胀有所威胁。然后接下来他说，美联储现在所采取的货币政策是适当的，是合适当下形势的。
For now, I believe that policy is well positioned. As always, we are prepared to adjust policy as appropriate to achieve our goals.
最后是关于说债，我们来听一下他怎么说。
At the FOMC's recent July meeting, I was of the view, as were most participants, that if the economy evolved broadly as anticipated, it could be appropriate to start reducing the pace of asset purchases this year. The intervening month has brought more progress in the form of a strong employment report for July, but also the further spread of the Delta variant. We will be carefully assessing incoming data and the evolving risks. Even after our asset purchases end, our elevated holdings of longer-term securities will continue to support accommodative financial conditions. The timing and pace of the coming reduction in asset purchases will not be intended to carry a direct signal regarding the timing of interest rate liftoff, for which we have articulated a different and substantially more stringent test. We have said that we will continue to hold the target range for the federal funds rate at its current level until the economy reaches conditions consistent with maximum employment and inflation has reached 2% and is on track to moderately exceed 2% for some time.
最后这里关于说债也是他今天所有讲话的重点。他说在今年7月份的 FOMC 议息会议上，他也同意如果经济继续扩大，减少国债的购买可能是正确的。这种好的经济现象的确在7月份已经出现，但是 Delta 毒株也在扩散，因此美联储会对将来出现的数据保持谨慎。他说，即使我们的国债购买结束，我们也会继续对市场保持宽松的支持政策，即使缩债的时间已经计划，也不会是加息的直接信号。他说，美联储在加息之前会给予市场更高强度的压力测试。美联储还是继续保持现有的利率，直到就业达到最大化，以及通胀达到 2% 的目标。这就是美联储主席鲍威尔在今天召开的杰克逊霍尔会议上面发表的讲话的重点。但是鲍威尔今天所发表的观点并没有得到美联储所有的官员的认同。费城美联储主席直接说，通胀并不是暂时的。美联储副主席克拉里德说，如果通胀继续延续下去的话，他会支持今年年底缩减购债。可见美联储主席鲍威尔今天发表的观点在美联储内部存在着分歧。因此我个人认为，虽然今天我们没有得到美联储清晰的缩减购债的计划和时间，但是给我的感觉是有可能会在今年剩下的这段时间里边的将来的某一天，会受形势所迫，根据需要而不得不提前宣布缩减购债。好，最后来看一下 Afrm 这个股票。看过我的视频的朋友都知道， Afrm 是我的其中一个持股，也是我今年的投资计划的其中一个标的物之一。自从我正式建仓持有它之后， Afrm 也经历了生死劫。我也是从100块钱的下方一直买下来，最后拉到70块钱的平均成本，然后就一直拿着没有动。最近3个月也有2-3次回到我成本区间的机会，但是我都没有卖。直到今天我收到富途Moomoo的一个提醒，就是这一个提醒，也就是今天盘后它涨到90块的时候给我的一个提醒。这个价格也是在我几个月之前给我自己设的卖出价格，既然都涨到了我想要的价格，所以我就卖了，盈利了20块钱，我也挺满意的，所以我就毫不犹豫的卖出了一半。但是卖出之后它还继续往上涨，今天盘后它最高涨到了102块钱，涨幅有 40% 以上。今天 Afrm突然飙涨，算是我又掰回了一局。距离上次我掰回 Wish 也就1个多月的时间，上次 Wish 也是盈利卖出去了，并且盈利还蛮可观的。今天我能有机会再次掰回看似已经失败了的局面，心里真的有点感慨。有一句话是这么说的，明天和意外，我们总不知道哪一个先来。其实这句话是用来描述不好的情况的，但是在股市里边这句话同样适用。无论是 Afrm 还是 WOO 还是 Wish， 只要我能够给予足够的时间和耐心，总能等来翻身的机会。股市里边没有绝对的好股和绝对的烂股，什么股票都有可能让我们赚钱和亏钱。上一次我在 Wish 上面能回本并且能盈利，很多人说我是运气。这一次我在 Afrm 上面能回本能盈利，估计也是运气。 但不管是什么气，赚钱了就是好事。不过今天 Afrm 盘后突然暴涨也是有利好消息的，是因为 Afrm 和亚马逊正式合作， Afrm 先买后付的这个支付方式可以在亚马逊上使用，因此就刺激了 Afrm 的股价今天盘后暴涨。至于下周一它还会不会继续上涨，我暂时不去猜，即使不涨我也不太担心了，因为我已经锁住了该锁住的利润。Afrm 今天之所以能够轻易的拉起3-4%，是因为这几个月经过长时间低位震荡，已经洗出去了大部分不稳定的筹码，所以主力要拉起来一点都不费力气。同时我在这里也再次表扬富途Moomoo的这个提醒功能，每当我的股票被套，然后我决定选择佛系炒股的时候，我就会在富途Moomoo的这个提醒功能上面设置我想要卖出的价格，然后到价我就卖，不到价我就死拿。我在 Afrm 上面所设的卖出价格本来有2个，一个是刚刚触发的90块钱的卖出价，还有一个是108块8毛5的这一个卖出价。这个还没触发，不知道下周以后它会不会触发，但是一旦触发，可能我还会按照我的计划去卖出一点。富途Moomoo这个炒股软件，除了它有这么好的这个提醒功能之外，最重要的是它可以盘前盘后交易。如果没有盘前盘后交易的话，我今天可能也没办法在它涨30%以后卖出去。要是纠结盘前盘后美股无法交易的朋友，可以考虑一下这个软件。感兴趣的朋友可以打开我视频下方的描述栏，那里有开户的链接，或者是评论区的最顶端也有链接。盘前盘后的交易机会对我来说非常重要，如果要是没有这个功能的话，我可能会失去很多好的交易机会。好，我今天的视频就先到这里，感谢大家的收看。要是觉得我今天的视频还可以的话，麻烦给我点个赞，留个评论，并且订阅转发。我们下次再见。